So we're going to go ahead and get started a few minutes early tonight, just so we have enough time to get through 115 images in that. So thank you, everybody, for submitting those. First of all, I want to, again, thank everybody for coming to our first image composition of 2024. Huge thank you to Doug Bennett for making the drive up from Colorado Springs to judge tonight's competition. He had a great presentation for us back in, I want to say it was August, and really, everybody really enjoyed that presentation and that. So we're really fortunate to have him here tonight to judge our first image competition. And again, this one being an open competition and the first competition of the year. It's not a surprise that we got a lot of images, but again, thank you everybody for the engagement and participation. And we will get through those 115 images as quickly as we can. I did the math on it real quick, and I think if you think about 150, if we had 120 images at 30 seconds per critique, that would be right about 1 hour. So we'll probably try and keep it on a pace of 30 seconds per critique. We'll go through the same sequence that we normally do with our presentations, as we will run those through the members first for the member voting, and then once we finish with that, then we will have Doug give his critiques and scores on the images. I'm going to go through real quickly here again, just for the sake of time, going through some of our other upcoming events. We've got February 21st, wildlife storytelling through bird photographer's lens, tips beyond basic sharp focus, and that is with Lone Tree member Paul Malinowski. March 6th, we have an exhibition night. Things that we've got coming up. March 20th, we have Lone Tree member Ben Evans doing hummingbird photography. April 3rd, we have competition with the themes are motion and leading lines. April 17th, we have lighting with Lone Tree member Elaine Graves. May 1st is exhibition night. And May 15th, we have wildlife photography with Carino Zaragoza, Lone Tree Photo Club member. Real quick here, I'll go through the couple other real quick announcements here. Again, we've got through February 20th is the deadline to enter the call of entry for the Lone Tree Exploring the Light competition. So we've got to, again, January 20th, so still a little bit less than 2 weeks. So make sure that you get your images in for that. Go to the website, and you can find that website on our website, the link to that, and it will have all of the categories in that you can enter. Again, with that, I'm going to keep things moving along here. I do want to give a real quick introduction about our judge tonight, Doug Bennett. Doug has been a member of Professional Photographers of America since 2011, earned his master's degree in 2015, PPA craftsman degree, recognition for education and others, 5-time Diamond Photographer of the Year, 2-time Grand Imaging Award finalist, winning first place in landscape category in 2017 and second in 2015. There'll be an update to that here in a second. Doug and his wife, Laura, are also instructors at Texas School. That comes up the end of April this year. I'm sure your class is already filled up for that, but
not quite.
Not quite? Okay, so there's a couple openings for that. So what is that, 4 days? It's like a 4-day school?
Sunday night through Thursday. Friday is graduation.
Right. Okay, so last couple things here. Again, this is about Doug Bennett. Let's see here. The other thing that I was going to say is, again, I just mentioned that he has the workshop with the Texas School end of April. And the last thing I wanted to bring up is, again, I was mentioning a lot of his accomplishments in that. One that he just got about a week and a half ago, and that was at the in Louisville, Kentucky, the PPA's imaging, and it was the international photography competition that they have for it's kind of their big event of the year. And he had the #1 award winning landscape image this year in that. So one more thing to add to his collection. But that, again, that was really impressive. I was at that event and saw all of the images that came up, and very amazing to see his work its way all the way into the finals and then get selected as the #1 image of the landscape category. So congratulations, Doug, on that.
Thanks.
And real quick, I'll also mention that Candace Herman, who's here tonight, she had one that won in the Final Four. So congratulations on that as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll turn it over to Jane I'll try and make my.
Thank you guys all for submitting your images.
That's right.
There's 115 images. And what I ask you guys is, before you push that submit button, take a quick look to make sure that those are all the folders you want, they're the correct photos, because it's a lot of work to get all these photos in order. And thank you, Jane, for doing such a good job.
Yes.
Getting all these photos in order. But yeah, before you push that submit button, just make sure that everything is correct. And that way it helps us all here get this put together. Thank you.
And thank you also for recognizing and giving credit to Jane. And I also want to give credit to Chuck Rasco over there, who's going to be doing plenty of work here over the next hour and a half. So thank you, everybody.
I wanted to show just a couple of slides before we get into this to show you kind of what I did. I'm not sure all of you know, I've already seen all of these images at home on my calibrated big monitor. I've already scored them and I've already made comments. So it should help speed the process tonight. That was kind of what I was after. I went through the images in the order that you saw, but then I went backwards through them again when I was scoring while looking at my notes. Made the notes yesterday, did the scoring this morning. So I did notice that things on this screen here, let's go to the next one. This screen here look a little different than what I saw on the monitor. Some images that didn't look too good on my monitor, quite frankly, looked a little better here. So, but then it also went vice versa as well. Next slide. I wanted to show you how I went about this. I'm used to PPA category scoring. I've been a juror before, and they tell us to think about the category that it goes in. And so I'm used to thinking this way. I wasn't used to thinking in terms of these numbers. I guess as we converted this to your system, it got the columns all filed up, but that's okay. So in PPA, they say assign the category and then figure out the numerical score. Obviously, we're not doing that, but I assign the lone tree numbers based upon these. So I think first in this, then I use this chart to convert to a number. Tonight, you'll see some images, let's say a group of 7s, 8s, 6s, and whatnot that in a few cases I'll say this was a high 6. In other words, it was very close to going to here. So if you were a high 6, I'll say that. I know it doesn't make any difference for you guys, but I kind of want you as the makers to know that, boy, I was edging between here and here or here and there, wherever it may be. If you were a low 6 or low 7 or something like that, I don't indicate that. It's just a 6 or a 7 or whatever it may be. Okay, next slide. These are the criteria I used. I don't use the PPA 12 elements. PPA kind of doesn't use these much anymore. They'll never say that. But I did a tweak. I did a tweak to the World Photographic Cup elements that they use: impact, composition, technical aspects, lighting, storytelling. I don't use love as one of my elements. PPA is tending to do this a lot these days. It is based upon the image that's before me that was on the screen. I don't take into consideration about how difficult it might have been or how frozen you might have been or anything like that. Okay. I'll try to highlight positives when I see them and constructive comments that I can identify. So hopefully you'll find it useful. I applaud the Lone Tree group in terms of doing this and making comments available and having your Zoom presence. I think that's a great thing, so I'm very happy to support that. Next slide. Quick advertisement. We do Texas School, May 28th to the May 3rd. It is a little expensive, but when you sign up, if you're not a Texas PPA member, you get a 1-year membership for free. They have a big trade show. Evening meals are free. It's in Addison, Texas. And they have about 900 to 1,000 attendees. So it's quite the deal. Really good food. It's a lot of fun. Next slide. And I like to advertise our one workshop we do a year. We squeeze this in 13, 16 September. We have a lot of people who attend both Texas School and this. They'll show up to Texas School and then decide they want to do this. We've had people go to the workshop, then decide to go to Texas School. We had one lady do Texas School 1 year, came out, did this, and then came back 2 years later for Texas School, same class. So drove all the way from Louisville, Kentucky to do that. Okay, that's it. Let's jump into is bicolor first? BI color, is that what's first?
Yes.
You
uh,
tell-
go
you
ahead
tell.
and share your screen. I'll stop share.
Okay. They got a light right here. I can see good.
Okay, Anini Beach One,
Yeah, a very prominent subject here. I really like this. A lot of texture in there. I would like to see more contrast kind of brought out of the blue, out of the white here. I think I'd really add a lot to it. Maybe a tonal contrast filter on that. Scored a 7. Next.
Cimarron Sunset.
The screen up here really robs the beautiful color that this one had. I noticed that it was very sharp all the way through. I like that. But you do have way too much sky. You don't need that much image real estate dedicated to your sky. Cut it off here. When you the amount of space you allocate to something is you telling the viewer what you want them to look at. Here the sky is competing with the scene. Draw your crop along here, and I think you'll see this pop out. And also, while it shows more detail here on the screen on my computer, this was pretty black. So try to bring up more detail in there. Okay, scored a high 7 on that one.
Cold Photographer.
Very nice framing of the photographer here. It's very sharp. I like the composition there with that framing. To me, the foreground was just too light, particularly on my computer. It looks a little better here on the screen, but I would darken that down a little bit. The contrast seemed a little soft to me as well. Not quite so apparent here. Also a 7.
Evening Stroll.
It kind of looked like Florence, Italy to me. A nice place, but perhaps it's not. I like the composition. Works nice. But it does look like a neutral density filter was used in the sky here because it's darkened down the tops of these buildings. And then our sky is darker than the reflection. Look at these clouds right here, this area. It's way lighter than what we have here. So the ND filter kind of messed you up there. It's kind of a technical issue in making the top of those buildings too black. So 6 on this one.
Getting the Fit.
Oh, can't wet my thumb to turn the pages. Really nice. It looks like kind of a quick grab shot, an instant, a capture in time. I really like that. Beautiful rendering of the hair. I was just marveling at the detail and the sharpness and the color of the hair. That was just awesome. And the sharpness goes all the way back to his one eye here. I kind of wish that his hat had been tipped up and he could have got both eyes, but that eye looked good and sharp. I like that one. High 7. Yeah. Okay.
Heading Home.
Oh, a really great capture here. Bring out a bit more brightness and contrast on the head. Not much, but a little bit I thought would help this. Otherwise, the coloration, the texture, all of that of the crane here. I love watching these guys fly. It's just graceful beauty. So that was a high 8 for me.
Houston, the egret has landed.
Nice lighting on this egret. Just beautiful highlight shadow. There's no lattage. Next to every highlight, you should have a shadow to give that depth and dimension. We certainly see that here. Just a few suggestions. These bright white spots on here, I just tone those down. They still need to be white. Don't take them away, but just a little too bright, too contrasty right there. I noticed that it had a presentation, and I didn't let presentation affect my scoring. But if someone's looking to enter this in like a TPA merit image review, I would make this white stroke line a lot thinner than it is there. They tend to not like that capturing the attention like it does here. I scored that a 9.
I got this.
Okay, cute capture of this little girl. Kind of like the juxtaposition of her expression compared to the calf. The calf is just, he's just there. She's all anxious and everything. But there's too much going on in this. We see the lady pulling here. We can't really see what her rope to. We can tell it's attached to this particular calf back there, but a lot going on there. I did notice that it was quite soft all the way through the image. I did note that 4472 enjoys his beef kind of like I do, but scored this one a 6.
I'll catch you.
Nice balance with the composition and gazing direction. You know, the bird is off to the right a little bit, gazing this way. Left wing is a little soft due to the shutter speed, but you know, what are you going to do? Good separation from the background. I always like that, so that the highlight, the subject is highlighted better. So a 7 on that.
Laundry day.
Nice composition here. Obviously, the Levi's here representing the laundry. The one thing I would suggest is the crop over here is a little tight, kind of really chops the flowers there. Not sure what was to the right in the image. If it had been something terribly distracting, then yeah, that's a challenge. But a little tight there. Would like to have had a little more room like what we have over here. So that was a 7.
Little birdie told me.
This one just rocked on my screen at home. A nice color palette. Love the composition. The bird is just super sharp, just great detail there. You know, vegetation often distracts, but here it works really well. It's very complementary to the image and to the color palette that you've got going on here. So I scored a 10 on this one.
Nature cycle, fire and ice.
Nice use of a panoramic crop composition here. I like that, particularly when you got the long snow-capped mountains there. One of the things that on my computer, and I was glancing over here, and I kind of see the same thing. I would like to see and suggest that the alpenglow along here have a more rosy color as opposed to the more kind of orangey color that was there. So that was just kind of a distraction for me. For the presentation, you know, just as a comment, if you're going to enter this in MIR, it's make that darker blue. It makes the colors pop out of here a lot more. And then brighten those dark trees down here in the lower right-hand corner. They're kind of, on my computer, they were the darkest thing, and so they kind of caught the attention. So suggest lightening those up. 7, I'm sorry. That's waiting for you. That's waiting for you.
Orchids in flight.
Okay, beautiful colors, and they're certainly in flight. I like that title. They did all seem to be soft in focus to me on my computer. And the other thing that was a little bothersome for me is the balance. With this one being pretty right up here tight in the left-hand corner relative to the others, the overall balance just kind of didn't seem right to me, a little off. So I scored this a high 6.
Palms in the sun.
There's great evening colors here for this silhouette, so I like the lighting of that. But there's so much overlap of the palm trees. We get these big black blobs in here with no detail that become very distracting because there's nothing there to see. So that was a hindrance on this one. So scored it a 7.
Sharing an evening drink.
Beautiful family, nice lighting on these guys. I thought it was a great capture. I do suggest cropping. You know, it's very tight up here in the right-hand corner, and on my computer, these areas here were a little distracting. So I think drawing a crop down here, maybe across here, still kind of keep them up towards the upper right in the new crop, but I think it'd work a lot better. You got a lot of negative space here that I don't think is really adding a lot to the scene, so that's what I would recommend to you. I scored that at 8.
Solitude on the shore.
Man, this thing was sharp, great capture, great detail. I loved it. Laura was looking over my shoulder. She was really advocating for this image. She loved it. Of course, she had not seen all the images here, so we take that with a grain of salt. I would suggest lightening the bird up. It's kind of, you know, I think the lighting on this particular day was kind of dull, and so, but you could brighten this up and not risk blowing out any whites or anything like that. Maybe a teeny tiny bit of contrast. I'm not sure once you lightened that up, but that was a great shot. Scored it a 9.
Okay, Stowe Bridge, Golden Gate.
You know, something like this is always a really tough shot unless you were a boat out here in the water or a canoe or something, because you've got all these branches and twigs and all of this stuff. I think you did the best you could given where you could probably get to in terms of positioning there, but it's just going to be a tough shot. I scored it a 6.
Stumps on a beach.
I loved looking at this shot. I had it up on my screen quite a while. Beautiful ribbiting capture of this old tree stump here with all of these roots. On my computer, this was eye candy on my computer. I loved it. Great texture and color there with a nice light on it. And I like the really nice use of the shutter to kind of drag that out to get the smoothing effect of the water, give a nice textural contrast between the smoothness and the cragginess that we see here. Unfortunately, the rock in the foreground, the rocks here in the foreground are soft, and then this stump back here was soft as well. And so the depth of field was just a little too shallow. I still scored it a 7 high. Boy, I sure wanted to go higher than that because I loved it, but those softness areas did detract. So depth of field would have really helped you on the scoring on that one. So a 7 high on that.
Sugar-free Milky Way.
I really like the title here. When I first saw the title before seeing the image, I was thinking, how can a Milky Way be sugar-free? I was thinking about candy bars, but you know, I like the rendering of the Milky Way. You know, I'm not a Milky Way expert. You know, you've seen them all kinds of different ways, but I thought this looked nice, and everything was very nice and sharp. I do kind of wish this rock was not there. It would have simplified the image just having this one rock with kind of the smooth surf around it over here too, but it is what it is. A 7 high on that one.
Sun, steam, and shadows.
The screen up here doesn't do this justice. It's a tough shot to take shooting in the sun like that. I thought it was done really well. I would try. There's some dense trees over here on this side, as you can see, whereas over here there's a little more spacing between them. And you know, I would almost consider and try it and see what you think cropping this off. I think the positioning of the rest of this, and I think the message comes across. It's more cohesive and consistent in terms of the spacing of the trees across this way. If we get rid of these, so but let's score that 8.
Sunrise on the lake.
You know, it's nice composition here with the allocation of the real estate of the image to the sky, as well as the lake, the ratio of these, and then including some very sharp foreground, which was nice and sharp. So that's good. The sunset bright spot appears a little too blown out to me. It did on my computer. It looks so here, but trying to brighten up the banks along the river some a little bit. It's pretty dark. You could probably bring a little more out of this. Not much, but a little bit. I scored that at 8.
Sunset over the Zambezi.
You know, initially this really has a great impact with the starkness of the tree branches here and the sun there, and the gradation of the color is very nice in here. But as I look closer at this, you know, the red around the sun here, you know, just how does that get brighter when it's closer to the sun? That I couldn't kind of make sense to me. I would expect it to be lighter there. And then the sky among the tree branches. Notice that right in here, the sky between the branches, you know, it should be more like this, and got a little too bright in there. And then there's, you know, you get out here to the edges, and there's chromatic aberration between the branch and the sky here. Can't see it on the screen, obviously, but and then I kind of thought overall it was a little bit soft. It could have been sharper, so scored that a 6.
The droplet.
You know, a real tight, close-in shot gives this some nice impact. But as I looked at it closer, the beak and the drop here, while they look sharp here on the screen, they're a little soft. It looked to me that the water droplets back here on the back are sharper than this one. And of course, this is the one where you really want it to be sharp. So scored that a 6.
Mariachi.
This was an impressive shot. I was quite amazed. Of course, I don't shoot portraits, but really nice capture. What amazed me is even with the sunlight hitting her and hitting all of this white makeup, and you can see texture. Nothing's blown out there. You can see the texture in that. So the control of the lighting is just spot on. no real suggestions I can make on that. Just a great shot. I like the diagonals of the bow, and the diagonal going on here, the facial expression, all works really, really nice. I gave that a 9.
And the last one here, the tower arch.
Very nice composition with the framing provided by the arch. It's very sharp all the way through that I noticed. But as I kept looking at this thing, there was something kind of bothering me about it. Finally, I labeled it tonal relationships. You know, the scene here kind of seems to be lit by a sky that's probably got thin high clouds in it, diffusing the sunlight so we don't see the real harsh shadows that you would expect your sun. But yet we see a sky here that's, aside from those streaky white clouds, is pretty open. So, you know, I kind of got to thinking that maybe the sky's been added. The sky's kind of dark, and you know, the tonality of this doesn't seem to fit with this. You know, the congruency thing there. One of the things I learned through PPA print competition is those folks are extremely suspicious that you've always substituted a sky, and they're going to look for evidence of it. And so I've gotten kind of tailored to looking for that myself. I experienced Ignacio Palacios, an Australian landscape guy, and he's even more so. We learned, we thought when Laura replaced the sky one, sent it off to him to critique, and he ripped her good for for inconsistency. So we learned a lot from that guy in doing that. So, but anyway, an 8.
Okay, advanced digital color, a foggy dawn.
Really, really nice image. When this first came up, I was loving it, loving it. Good exposure, nice atmospheric perspective here, giving depth in this image with the cranes, I think, there in the middle versus the background there. But as I looked at it, oh my gosh, there is some, you can't see it too much here, but on the screen, there are some magenta color shifts going on in here. Just don't know how it got there, but it is very much there. So that's a pretty big technical issue when that's happened. So I edged it in at a 7.
A foot of snow.
Yeah, I like the way the nice control of the sunlight. You know, shooting into the sun and it's bright. That's hard to do. I know on the computer here it looks better. It looks like it did at home. That looks pretty good also. So as I looked at the sun, the one thing here, and I'm kind of starting at the bottom working down. You know, nice sun rays here. I like that. But look at this one right here, right the third one right there. It just seemed like something intercepted it and stopped it from coming on down here. I don't know what was going on there, but so I like the angles going on here with this. Oh my gosh, this is eye candy. The highlight versus the shadow. This is catching just a little bit of light. The warm versus the cool colors. This is just tack sharp. Um, that all worked great. You know, the stage is what it is. You know, it's not really eye candy, except at night when it's all lit up and they're doing their thing and everything. But I gave that a high 7.
Cadillac sunset.
Again, nice angles here. I like the composition, the rendering of the clouds, particularly over in this area. I thought were really beautiful, but it kind of blows out in here. You sense there's some clouds there. They kind of got blowed out. Was very sharp, and the one thing I really noticed is that I could see the depth and texture of the paint on these wheels and on that. They applied on so much paint, so I thought that was very nice to look at and made it an interesting subject. So I scored that a 7.
Checking with mom.
You know, nice capture, very tender moment. I like that a lot. Kind of like the strong diagonal that you kind of have going on here. That always adds a dynamism to the photo. It is lacking some sharpness, I felt like, and not so much here on this screen, but on my screen, some of the dark areas were losing a little detail. But on the screen here, I think it's okay. But something to look at. I scored it a high 6.
Death of dragons.
You know, nice composition here, you know, both from side to side and top to bottom in terms of the feeling, the balance feel. The things that I felt like were were somewhat issues. You know, here's our dragons, obviously. The trouble here is that this one is, you know, it's white and it's matching the waves and it's intersecting the waves. So the separation of the subject from the background is not real strong here. So maybe lightening this up a little bit to get that separation going on. At the time of image capture, getting the camera down lower such that these would jut up above this would have really made them look like these dragons are fighting, that sort of thing. But obviously, that's something you can't go back and fix. But like the good clean ice there, a nice shot. Scored that a high 6.
Dual focus.
Oh yeah. Strong Baroque angle. Baroque angle goes from the lower left to the upper right. That's always pleasing to a viewer. Things that are on the Baroque angle. These are sharp, sharp, sharp. Oh my gosh! And the look of determination and mission purpose of these guys. I'm an old Air Force guy, and as I looked at these, I thought there's a bunch of F-15 Strike Eagle squadrons in the Air Force that would buy this photo. I'm sure they would love that, and I love it too. So you don't think of birds have an expression, but the way this is captured, it's there. And these guys, the only thing I wish is that there'd been a little bit of separation between these two. That we'd had a separate bird here, separate bird there, still in the same striking diving pose. That's a high 9.
Okay, eagle launch.
Same thing here. Just great sharp detail in this guy. Just one kind of awesome, nice angles going on as well. Nicely balanced with the gazing direction going on. I like that. I did see right up in here with the blue sky, dark blue. When you got in here and there's a little bit of sky between the gaps in these feathers, it was light blue. So if something was done to tone down the sky, it didn't reach into these areas right in here. So strong image. I was a high 7.
Early morning bath.
I like the separation with the background, with the nice light on the bird there, really coming in from the sides. Really gives it some nice texture and dimension to it. I did wish that the top of the head didn't blend quite so much with the dark background there. So the separation is good and strong here, but it drops off back in here. It's just kind of the way it's going to be when you got a black head like that. Beautiful tonalities in the feathers, I noticed there. Really like that. So that was a high 7.
Frozen breakfast.
Really, really like this image. I spent quite a bit of time looking at this one. Changed my mind a couple of times on it. The one thing I noticed is the title really brings you to these claws, a real high contrast with those dark claws, very sharp, zeroing in here on the breakfast. At first, I was kind of concerned that the edge of the wings kind of coincided with the faint horizon line here. I kind of thought, well, it'd have been better separation if these had extended up in here. But then I changed my mind. And the reason is if these wings extended up in here, it'd become a high contrast point. It almost is a little bit, but it'd be even more so up here, and the eye would tend to go up there. We don't want that to happen. We just want the eye to stay with this guy, and particularly with what's fixing to be breakfast. So that was a beautiful image. I love that, and I scored that a high 9.
Green sand beach.
I noticed this was really sharp all the way through, so good control on that. I was putting things up against my screen to make sure that horizon is level. It is, and you don't ever want to get the sea horizon out there unlevel. Laura did that one time. Real quick story. I think we're doing okay on time, aren't we? Laura did that one time and had her ocean sloped like this, and it was many years ago, and I got all excited. I said, "Do you have pictures right before this and after that?" I said, "If you do, you got something maybe worth big money with National Geographic." She gets all excited. She wants to know why. And I said, "You captured the shot right after the earthquake under the water occurred and lifted the water up. And and if your subsequent shots show the tidal wave forming, so I damn near got killed. So, uh, so the horizon is level and not too much sky. I like that. Of course, the sky is not that much of the image anyway, so don't put much of it in there. For me, the left shore rocks out here came too close to the edge. This becomes a real contrast point with the white and the black there and right near the edge. So it becomes what's called an agitation or a edge flicker is a term you use sometimes. So maybe just moving to the right a little bit and getting some ocean space here would have aided this in this composition. I do like the swirl, the color works great. I did question, and maybe this is the name of this particular beach, Green Sand Beach. Maybe it's called that. I don't know, but for me, it's kind of like there's more to this than just this green sand down here. You know, this is not your subject. To me, it's not. It's more the whole thing. So I don't have a good title suggestion. I do like the convergence of this shoreline and this line here. That kind of gives a nice depth perspective to that. That all works really nice. So I gave that a 7.
Reading the Dawn.
Oh yeah, okay. Good composition with the tree and the leftmost sea stacks out here. It's got kind of a, it's heavy weighted ballast over here, but you got this one out here to the edge. It's kind of like a teeter totter thing. It helps with the balance of the image. If you didn't have these rocks out here, it'd kind of feel unweighted, unbalanced a little bit. So I like that. One big problem here is between the branches here. Notice the sky that we see through here, much brighter than the sky that we're seeing over here. And so if you worked the sky out here, maybe if you worked all of that, it didn't filter down into these areas. It got into there, but then dropped off in here. And believe me, that bit me a few times in the early days when that was pointed out to me. So that's a 6 high.
Icy Leaves.
Well, I looked at this for a while trying to figure out just what I was looking at. Obviously this is ice, but I wasn't sure what the circle was. Doesn't matter. It's a very creative shot. Certainly captures the attention. Um, the one thing that was distracting is these down here are pretty blurry. So, maybe cloning, or not cloning, but cropping those out. And then as I looked at it more, the other thing I was noticing is see these areas right here. It's I don't know if those were specular highlights that were made to look a little purplish, a little magenta. So those were kind of distracting relative to the other colors I was seeing. So I scored that a 6 high.
Kayaking in Antarctica.
A nice balance here with the two kayaks. I like the fact that they're different colors. I think that makes that image work better. There is a bit of a black hole here under the ice. If you could bring out a little bit more detail in that hard shadow here. As I looked at the image, I couldn't help but wonder, obviously we always have to crop somewhere on the top, but, I kind of wondered if you had more in the image up here that would show more of the grandeur of the scene, very high heights relative to these small guys here, just giving it a greater sense of the scale that's going on there. But just a thought that I was wondering. So I scored that a 7.
Kona Moon Set.
Okay. Very sharp foreground and the sunset light is rendered nicely, but the light on the foreground with the sunset, that's just incongruent. I mean, you got specular highlights here, what should be relative to the sun, the shadow side of the rocks. So I suspect artificial light was used here, obviously a long exposure, not sure how that was done or how this light was occurring, but matching something like this with that is just too far incongruent for me, too distracting. Scored that a 6.
Land Time Forgot.
No, this was a wower. I've been to this spot. I didn't get a shot like this, unfortunately, but boy, is it sharp. Oh my gosh. These grasses right here in the foreground, middle ground, and then the sharpness all the way through that. The complementary colors of the yellow and the blue just works beautifully. The black sand, it's got great detail in it. You can see it. And look at the compositional angles going on here. just drawing you into the scene, even an angle here, angle here, angle there, and then they're all through there. You just go. And in landscape, we talk a lot about visual transitions, and this one really exemplifies the near to the far, big to the small, uh, warm to the cool, just things that make the eye flow through the scene. In PPA, you'll get a lot of jurors who are oriented to looking at portraits, and they want to find the one thing they should be looking at in the image, the subject, because that's what they're looking for, the face of the portrait or what have you. This is a scene where they would tend to say, and we've had them do it to a number of us, you got two images here. Draw a crop there. This is one image, and then that's the other image. And they're dead wrong on that. But I mention that because if you enter this in like a merit image review with PPA, you could get burned on that. So there's kind of a strategy of what kind of landscapes to submit to PPA versus what you might submit elsewhere. Okay, I scored that a 9. Gorgeous, gorgeous shot, well composed. I loved it. Oh, I did. One thing that would make this even stronger is too much sky. Just draw a crop right. We don't want to squeeze the tops up here, but draw a crop about there. When you do that, and you lessen the amount of real estate to the sky, then the eye candy pops all the more and becomes all the more present because you're telling the viewer, this is what I want you to look at when you allocate a lot of space to it. Okay.
Let the day begin.
Yeah, beautiful colors in this. I thought that a striking graphical image here with the contrast in the trees. These trees here on my computer were just gorgeous to look at. Nice depth in there. I wrestled with suggesting a horizontal flip to move these trees over here. Our eye and landscape images that have depth like to enter in the lower left and go this way. And then this becomes the eye stopper if it's over here for the viewer's eye to kind of rest in and absorb all the beauty of that. So I would suggest a flip on that. Let it sit with you for a while, see if you like it better. I think in my case I would. So 8 on 8 high on that one. What it is.
Mother polar bear.
Nice lighting across the face there. The lighting, the highlighting on the white fur there was nicely controlled. That can always be quite the challenge with that. Oh yeah, I would crop up a little bit from the bottom here to get rid of that blurry snow that's right there. So just draw one right there. I think you get rid of this, and I scored that a 7.
Nitpicking.
Okay, title of what you probably think I'm doing tonight. Very nice color and control of the highlights there, the texture and the color and all of this. This screen doesn't do justice of what was really there. The eye is very sharp. I kind of wish there hadn't been the shadow banding on the neck, but it is what it is. I gave that an 8 high.
Riding the range.
Nice shot. The sharpness in the foreground and the rider is really good. Softer in the middle and the background. A little dropped off a little too much, I felt like. The highlights on the horse's muzzle and the hat here and there kind of lost some detail. But yet the sunlight on the rider's face I thought was nicely handled relative to the shadow area. I like the two different gazing directions. The horse looking one way, he looking in the other way. So they're really surveying the range. I gave that a high 7.
Spiced cranberry cocktail.
Oh yeah. Man, this would make my throat feel a lot better right now. Whoever shot this, have you got some out in the car? Beautiful color that popped out on this. I like the angle of the stick with the berries on it, and I suspect that's salt. Could be sugar. I don't know. But on my computer, these soft things looked a little soft. I was wanting a little more clarity, sharpness to these than what I could see. I felt like the ice here was a little sharper. You see the focus really fall off in the background, and obviously the front one generally will be sharper, but I felt like this fell off too much. And then the crop was really tight. We even hit the edge of the stick on this one, so I felt like a crop out here would have gave a better feeling of balance to the image. So a little more depth of field to deal with the blurriness. So I gave this a 6 high.
Standing strong.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's a beautiful image. You know, I love the flow and the texture of that foreground water. It sweeps around here. Just you kind of enter the scene like we was talking about from the left. So this just picks up our eye, flows us in, lets us examine this rock. We go on out here. Kind of wish, I don't know what was to the right here. If it's more rock or if you could have captured some water out there to get the crop away from the edge of that rock. I think it would have helped the balance of the image, but I don't know what's out there, and so there may have been good reason for drawing the crop right there. But beautiful color, texture, nothing blown. This was blown out a little bit, but nice image. So I scored that a 7 high.
Stormy sunset.
Stormy sunset. I like the composition. I like the angle that you incorporated there. Gives a flow to the image, a flow into the scene. Again, coming in from the lower left to the lower right. You just follow this line, pulls us into the screen. Kind of rolls over to the light area. So the visual flows work there. One of the visual flows is always from darkness to light. That works great here. The sunset light, you don't see it here, but on my computer is picking up a little tinge of green there. So when you're working those sunsets, you got to watch that red color channel, both in capture and in post processing, because that's when you start blowing out that red channel, it's when the green comes in. Lower left corner, I felt like was a little dark here. I'd kind of lighten this back up to kind of give it consistency with this. I scored that a 7.
Symmetry.
Oh yeah, nice colors here. Very nice graphical nature, structure in the image here. I like that. Having that individual being there looking up and towards the center was a spot on thing to do. You don't see it here in this image, but on the computer, these highlights right here in the middle and the bright spots were tinging green, whereas out here you see the nice golden color of the light on the wood. So again, you just gotta watch that red channel. I scored that a 7.
Those shoes.
No, gosh. All I can say is awesome. Uh, one very small nitpick, one blown specular that can be given. I think it's right there that I was looking at, but that's so small. On there, it doesn't even look blown. I scored that a 10. Just the background of that, there were commercial images at the PPA International Print Competition. The commercial category there for me seems there were a lot of weak images in there. The winners were really, really good, but boy, this image there would you'd give them fits. Whoever owns this image, that's awesome.
Wood ducks in fall.
Okay, nice image. Trouble is, this guy's a little soft. You just look at the speculars of the lights. He's soft. I would tone down the saturation here. Doesn't look too bad here, but on the computer, the saturation is too much. So it then competes with the color and the way we want these ducks to pop. So recommend desatting there a little bit. 8.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I looked at this guy and I thought, man, he's already arguing with me, and I haven't even scored it yet. I love seeing the tongue in there. It's a little more red on the screen. Great separation with the background, the bird sharp. Nice pose with the feet, legs on an open angle to the camera. I kind of like that. Scored that a 9.
Dual focus, which is the 2 eagles, and land time forgot Black Sand Beach. I think it's tiebreak between those 2 images.
What do you do? The 2 eagles.
Since we have a 10.
Now to break the other scoring tie, I need him to break the tie.
The club score?
Yes.
I know the 2 images. I've seen these so many times. I know which ones you're talking about.
Here, pick one.
I go with the Eagles.
Thank you for making those.
Even though I'm a fan of the F-16 rather than the F-50.
Okay, pro color.
American Mustangs. Wonderful composition here. Beautiful rendering in this harsh sunlight. The lighting was handled great. The maker kind of picked this kind of look here with kind of the subdued colors. I respect that. I'd like to see the not so subdued colors. I really want to see the bright reds in the flag, but that's just wonderful. I scored that a 9.
Challenging Kenya.
That's a great capture there. There's something going on. Nice to catch them doing something besides sleeping. Um, a little bit of green tinging going on here where the sunlight is hitting the edges of these. So that again, that green tinging, just something to watch out for. Scored that a high 6.
Cold as ice.
Very creative capture here, and with the blue color, it certainly looks cold. I like that. There were some bright speculars over here that were a little distracting, I thought. And then I was seeing, I like how this looks out here, but then I was seeing some sharp, curvy lines in here that I felt like were a little distracting, a little inconsistent. So I scored that a 7.
Double trouble.
Oh, nice composition here, nice lighting on it. It was sharp front to back. You don't see it here, but the top of that cloud was getting some green tinting in it. So it held me back. I was a 7 high on that one.
First light.
Oh, yeah. Canyon de Chelly. Great time of day to shoot this because the morning light kind of highlights this a little better, particularly in the wintertime, giving some side light on there. You shoot it in the evening and the rock here blends with the background. It's hard to get separation. So a good time to shoot that. I like that. It looked like the color temperature was just a little too blue to me. I'd suggest warming that up. Scored it a 7.
Harlow.
Not much to say here. Great composition. I like it. The exposure is good. Gave that a 7 high.
Moonsat Iceland.
Well, I love the colors on this. That screen doesn't do it justice. The moon looks perfect. I wanted to compliment you. A lot of people will throw contrast in the moon and make it totally unrealistic looking, and you didn't do that here, so I applaud that. I had a little question here, and maybe it is, but I kind of wondered if this image was level or not. Usually these layers are level. Perhaps that's the way it really is. I don't know. But if you were to enter that in the PPA, you'd want to level that up. Scored that a 7.
Pure Colorado color.
Uh, yeah, this did have great color in it. I like that. No real suggestions on that. I was kind of wrestling with maybe cropping these off a little bit, but looking at it there, I'm thinking it's okay. A little bit of green was creeping in, not much. I scored that an 8.
Secret bunker.
I was looking at your verticals here. They're all very vertical, which is important. Jurors are going to look at that in PPA big time. If anything, I would have tried to maybe lighten this area up a little bit. Not sure why that turned out darker relative to everything else, but a nice shot. High 7 on that. Yeah.
Solitary 7.
Sunset. Yep.
I had trouble with this leading line on the right. I couldn't figure out what that was. I guess it's a tree branch. The sky is a little bit overexposed. I love the dreamy quality of this, but this highlight right here on that, just, obviously we got a bright thing over there. But this was distracting being way down here. So a great image, but and I like the idea of the leading line, but then it become distracting. So I made it a 6 high. Scored it 6 high.
Winter's warmth.
Nice shot, a lot better on the screen than this. Very busy, but it's kind of uniformly so it works. I think that's good. The colors are beautiful. Sun's not overly hot. So I scored that a 7.
Worship.
This was an awesome scene. I love it. Great color going on in here. On the screen, I felt like a little more contrast kind of in the big V area here. Not much, but a little bit would have helped it out. Scored that a high 7.
We're going to monochromatic right now. We're going to beginner intermediate.
Okay.
Okay, Art Museum 3.
Very strong angles here make this a very dynamic graphic composition. I would lighten up the back wall here and lighten this up a little bit. They're a little bit too dark. Scored that an 8.
Bad Boy of Zulu, Nyala.
Yeah. A little flat on the contrast here, and I felt like it could have been a bit sharper, but good separation with the background for the most part. I'd toned down the grasses eating. That's pretty bright there and really contrasty right there. Scored a 7.
Caradites at Acropolis.
Good exposure, given that this is lit by the sunlight and this is white stone. Given the gazing direction, we do need more space out here. I'm not sure what's to the left and whether that would have messed up the image, but it does need more space. You could stretch this out perhaps. white halos for the the sky in here. There's white halos all along the edges here. Scored a 7.
You think we can eat it?
You know, nice separation of 3 birds here, and kind of forms a diagonal. Then we got the diagonals of the beaks that tend to parallel to each other, at least here and here, and somewhat there. Nice image. I scored that a 8.
Finish well every day.
You know, when this first popped up, I was really impressed, and I still am, with the lighting, the texture that we see in his face, giving great character to this fella. But as I got to looking at it more, it looks apparent to me that the black brush was brushed in to separate him from the background. You kind of can't see it here, but you can kind of see it here in the way of the black. So that's what it looks like to me. It's distracting. So a little bit of the PPA came out of me on this one, and so I think I scored that a 6. I did.
Heading home.
Yeah, just a quick comment. A lot of jurors will say black is not a background. So backgrounds are important, but just don't make it pure black. Heading home, this is just not working for me. We got black globs here that we can't see any detail. Contrast kind of high. Scored at 6.
I see you.
It took me a while to find the eyeball on that. I'm from West Texas, a little slow. But it's a creative shot. It appears to me the white fur is pretty white on this, so that's what kind of confused me for quite a while. I couldn't figure out that was the muzzle of the horse, so scored that a 7.
Into the night.
Well, yeah, really like this one. Nice depth. Got the converging lines with doing that. The lighting is helping doing that. I think kind of lighting up the dark walls here a little bit, not like this, but just a little more than this blackness that we're seeing there would really help. 7 high on that.
Marcelina Mountain from Kebler Pass.
You know, it's a nice scene, but the front lighting makes this really hard to work with in terms of a dynamic landscape. You just don't have any highlight and shadows to work with. So when you have a scene like this, you really want a lot of textural detail in all of this, and it wasn't there to the extent that it should have been. So, or I would have liked to have seen it. So it was a score to 6.
Misty morning mowing.
Nice idea with the composition, but the extreme difference in the contrast I felt like was kind of distracting. Don't have any detail up in here. If you could pull out some of that detail, I think that would work a little bit. Scored that a 7.
Any night.
Kind of a nice idea to do something creative and something different, but the noisy areas here, see all that noise in there, and that was just really distracting. I couldn't quite figure out what that was. Obviously, this is from Florence, but gave that a 6.
River foam 3.
You know, anytime you're shooting white water like this in sunlight, that's going to be very tough to do. You did pretty well given how tough that is, but that left you with some really dark shadows underneath here, and these areas up here were lighter than this, so gave that a 6.
Standing tall.
You know, I like the creativity here. I think this really works. The composition's nice. Would like a little bit more breathing room of the sky over here next to this branch. It comes too close to the edge, but and maybe a little bit more detail here. There's some here, but maybe brightening that up just a little bit. All in all, though, still a very nice image. I scored an 8.
Swirling surf.
Oh yeah, this was a favorite of mine. I really like this one with the way just perfect shutter speed to really get the swirl of the water. The eyeball likes to follow all of this, and then look at the light and the dark and the shading on this rock here, really giving a lot of depth and dimension. That really worked well. I thought I scored that a 9.
Taking time.
Grab shot there, kind of nice. Little bit. It was a little bit soft. I did score that a 7.
Uphill both ways.
Yep. That made my knees hurt as I looked at that. You know, I really like the thick trunks of trees here. I wish I'd extended on down here. Boy, I'd make that a super graphic image if that did. You know, you might even consider cropping and doing that. I think it'd make it a stronger image because this is kind of not adding to it. So just subtracting to simplify the image and make it strong. Scored it a 7.
Really nice.
You know, this was an interesting shot. I kept looking at this, and you know, you got it long enough. This front wheel looks like it's spinning, so your shutter speed was long enough to catch the spin, but yet this one's not spinning, and he caught the face. So just everything was a nice catch there. A lot of contrast, but and you don't see it so much here. I thought it detracted from his face because around his eye you see kind of just a white mask on the screen, on the computer screen that's not evident here. But I did score that a 7.
Wild Yellowstone winter morning.
Now you got a lot going for you here with the separation of the bison. They are a little dark. If you could bring a little more detail out of them, I would lighten this tree up a little bit. We're looking through a little bit more air. I would lighten that up. This is kind of a progression of black things that will add depth to your image. See, like the blacks really drop off out here due to the atmosphere. So I scored that a 7.
A face only a mother could love.
Good title, great detail, great sharpness in the eye there. I noticed that was shot at 500 millimeter. I did look at the data on some of these. A little more depth of field, I think, could have helped there, but still very, very, very good. I gave that an 8.
Against the wind.
Nice side lighting on that causes the shadows to be some black holes in there. If you can bring out a little more detail, I think that'd be helpful in those areas. I did feel like it was lacking a little bit of sharpness, so I was at a high 6 on that.
Antarctica.
You know, too much sky here. I'd crop off a third of this sky, and then I'd add contrast to the remaining clouds to make them look more stormy and threatening, a little more drama to it. I was bothered by this black peak being right next to the edge there. That's that edge flicker thing we were talking about a while ago. PPA would have a conniption, particularly in IPC, but I would warp this and stretch this to get that out of the image. Can't really crop because then you start cropping in too close to this ice peg here. So that's what I would suggest doing, or what I would do, as long as I wasn't entering this in IPC. A 7.
Around we go.
Good thing I'm not feeling dizzy from the COVID. These things drive me nuts. I can't ride them anymore, but I like the way the curve worked. I kind of wondered if maybe cropping in a little bit more would make this curve look even more dramatic. You know, Dr. Man, you're almost going out of the image and back in. Just a thought. I would brighten the image just a little bit to get a little bit more detail in the bottom of the buckets. A 7 on there.
Belly of the beast.
Oh yeah, I love the choice of shutter speed here to capture that water. That's just perfect for me. I love that. I would probably crop in from the right just a little bit to kind of give it a little bit better balance. And I would brighten this guy up. This is wet. It's got some nice highlights on it. So I'd kind of bring that out to add a little more eye candy there. Scored that a high 7.
Blustery afternoon.
Oh yeah, man, this was great. I really like that. I think you probably took that last Saturday, maybe, I don't know, but this is one. I'm going to spend just a few extra seconds on this. This is one I really, really think you should flip. You know, we talk about entering a landscape scene with depth. We have that here. We enter from here. Well, these bushes are blocking our way. This looks like an easier path to follow. So if this is over here, we enter the eye enters the scene here, and then this high contrast tree will be over here, and it'll be the eye blocker. That's where the eye stops and looks at that tree. That tree being the more contrasty one is your subject item. So this one would really benefit from a flip. Gave that a high 7.
Canada Goose Landing.
You know, it's impressive wing surface on there, the detail, the textures. Took me a while to figure it out, and I couldn't find. Finally, I spotted the legs, but I was trying to figure out, you know, what was going on. I just not too used to birds. I would brighten those legs up to help a little bit, but bird purists may object to that. Beautiful water texture. Suggests reducing the contrast in the water a little bit to let this guy pop a little bit more. Clone out the spots in the water. There's spots. These little white spots here. I'd clone all that out. 7 on that.
Carved by time.
Wonderful texture on the right iceberg. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's just awesome. So here I got some cropping suggestions. Come down on the sky and come down over here. We don't need to see too much of this one. this is your pretty one. Let's focus on it. So crop some of this out, crop down on the sky, this, and then this is kind of a nice complement to that. Let's get rid of that guy. I think it'll make that one a lot stronger. The 7 on that. You know, it's a
Tip
real,
of the day.
okay, really nice high key image here. I don't know. I saw some white. See that white circle right there, and then there's one right there. That's maybe natural to the bird. I don't know. It. I saw that. Wasn't sure if they were supposed to be there. I kind of suspect that they are. I like the lighter vignette that you got around the scene. I scored that a 8.
Convergent.
You know, a strong graphical piece there. I have no idea what I'm looking at. I think it might be an aerial view of trains. I'm not sure. No suggestions really on that. I scored 7.
Creating space to think.
Well, look at all the angles going on there. That's just wonderful. The different tonalities just add the depth and dimension there. Just really, really nice. You know, I was looking at all the lines. We got these lines, but then I noticed the line right here, you know, kind of blurs up a little bit. Not sure where that was, but scored that a high 7.
Dancing parade.
Oh, wonderful expression on the face there. Nice lighting. You know, as I looked at this, I was wishing, oh my gosh, I wonder what the colors were. I'm not sure this was the best candidate for black and white. It might have been just way popping of this colorful with the sunlight on it. But nice composition with the angles going on there. A high 7 on that.
Danger zone.
You know, I like this strong diagonal going on here, but notice the blacks here are really black, and they're blacker than the blacks here. And so, with the, you know, one of the visual transitions in landscape is transition of blacks. The blacks should be blacker in the foreground, or what's closer to the camera. A little further away from the camera, we're looking to do more atmosphere. Make these blacks not quite as black. Notice how these blacks drop off, gives us that nice perception of distance. So with these being blacker than these, that kind of creates a problem in disrupting that perception of depth there. So I scored that a 7.
Deep thoughts.
Impressive, great lighting on this lady. Oh my gosh, look at the expression there, the texture of the skin, just wonderful. Nice separation. I could tell on my computer it looked like there was a little light halo all the way around here, but it's not too objectionable. I don't think. I think it's okay. Just wonderful. High 7 on that one.
Delicate winter crystals.
You know, great, great detail in all these elaborate crystals. The background kind of becomes a little distracting, real high contrast out here, particularly with the darkness that we got here. Felt like that kind of distracted a little bit. 7 on that.
Dying trees.
No, this is a really great image. Graphic, you know, it's striking. It's got a simplicity to it. I would consider a horizontal flip here too, but not so much as strong a case for that as compared to that other image we were looking at a while ago called Blustery. There's a nice depth to this image. That's wonderful. 8 high on that.
Frozen in time.
You know, I kept looking at that. It's an enjoyable watch. For me, it was a little too dark on the bottom, considering what we have up here at the top. That I found that to be distracting, but nice texture and all of that. So that was a high 7 for me.
Stand tall.
Yeah, I suspect this may be the same shoe we saw in the color category, but same awesome result, actually. I love the work of the background here with this. Wonderful. The lighting is just expertly handled all the way. Great commercial shot like the other one. You know, one suggestion I do have, you know, the shoe also has kind of a gazing direction. In other words, it's open towards this way. So it's a little, relative to the crop that we have here, it's a little bit positioned for me too far to the left. So a little crop off over here, I think would improve the balance of the image. Right now, the shoe is just a little too far left for me. That's a very nitpick, a 9 on that.
Tough stuff.
Oh, yeah, nice and sharp, good control of the sunlight, highlights in the fur. Wish his face wasn't in shadow, but of course that's what the light gave you, and you do have him looking towards you. The trouble over here is these twigs over here are pretty distracting. Wish those weren't there. That would have been very nice. So I was a high 6 on that.
View from going to the Sun Road.
You know, strong diagonals here, but that contrast between the mountain here and the sun's just all blowed out up there and way too, obviously it must have been a very hazy day. 6 on that.
Walk on the beach.
The walkers here are really nice. I like the fact that the 2 individuals are separate and their legs are separate and their legs aren't intersecting with this rock here in the foreground. As I looked at these sun rays, and you can kind of see it here, just to each side of the sun ray, it's a little darker. So I don't know if the technique used to bring out the rays there added that darkness there, but shouldn't be there. It was. So 7 on that.
Walking in the street.
Great detail here, nice contrast. Getting separation in a shot like this is tough, but these guys are all sharp. The riders are sharp, and the rest of it is not as sharp. So that helped give separation there. I thought it worked quite nicely. A 7 on that.
Yearning to be king.
The moose in the water. Yeah. I love the reflection. Not this so much. This gets a little fluttery up in here, and separation becomes a little bit of an issue. I kind of wondered about, well, let's crop this baby and turn it and flip it upside down. And then you got a stark reflection of just the elk in the water. And I don't know, I think that had kind of a unique look to it. So it might be something to try. High 6 on that. When I saw this shot, obviously I knew that was a hunter. Laura looked at this today and said, "What's he doing? What's he doing? What's that stick? What's that?" So I berated her for a while for not knowing. It's overly bright. I would darken that down a little bit. Of course, you want to keep some detail in that. You can bring that back up, the black on the dog. But I love the idea of the dog just asking him, "Aren't you ready yet?" I just love that. So I gave that a 7.
Bigger than most. Uganda.
Yeah, great texture in that that's enjoyable to look at. One suggestion I have, the white tusks shining through here. I saw this white and I thought, what is it? And I figured it out. I just toned down the white there. I think it strengthened that image up. The eye goes there, so you don't want that happening. 7.
Delicate curves.
This very interesting shot. I like that. It's creative. It's kind of beautiful abstract quality to it. Laura was noticing the flow of the curves, kind of the eye does flow through the image. So very strong, high 7 on
Follow the light.
that. Great composition and tonalities on that. The 2 kids there give a nice perspective to that. 7.
Mysterious ice circles.
A nice abstract feel to this. Love the flow, the Arab, kind of the arabesque going on here. I used the word arabesque one time, print competition. A few folks laughed at me. But but that's what it is. That is very interesting when you can do that. Wondered what that was. I think it's cars that have been racing on ice, huh? So some car racing up. So and the whites I thought, even though it's side lighting, sunlight on there, there's nice texture and all of that. So I gave a high 7 to that.
Porto sunset.
Oh yeah, very nice. If possible, and it looks better here than I thought it would. But there's a church over here that's dark, and I know that it's not being lit, but if you could do something to bring some light to that, there are ways to do that. I think doing that would help out, and just maybe light up a few more things just to kind of give it a little more shading, different tonalities in that to just accentuate the depth and dimension of that image. I gave that a 7.
Rocky Mountain snow squall.
Nice layering with some diagonals going on here. Diagonals always work great. Parallel diagonals give harmony to an image. Again, we got this level of blacks here, very black in here relative to here, and same there. So kind of reverse that. Maybe even darken these a little bit, lighten these up a little bit, and the sense of depth in the image will work a lot better. Gave that a 6 high.
Sentinel of the fog.
Yeah, strong capture. The verticals are vertical there. as they should be. So the composition is great. There are some halos in here along the sides, so that would be something you'd want to fix. The 7.
Starry Night on the River.
Quite the abstract here. It took me a while to figure that out. I was wondering if it was nails at first when I first saw that. I then kind of figured it out, but the contrast is really, really stark, and to me that lessened the impact for me. It is creative, but I gave it a 6 high.
Strike a pose.
Oh my gosh, great natural portrait here. The posing is just wonderful with the angles going on here, angle of the arm, and look at the S curve of her body, and a lot of times when they have the hand up here, it looks forced and unnatural. Here it looks very natural to me. The texture of the black jacket, the highlights, just gave such depth and dimension to this. The lighting is just expertly lit. A 9 high on there. Beautiful. Wish I could do that.
The Good Life.
Great character study on this guy. I did notice, and you can't see it here, but there's it looks like highlighting on here, but it's really a white halo all along there. So that's a little distracting, a nitpick, but if you were doing anything PPA, you want to fix that. But again, just a great pose, angles going on here, open stance, not square to the camera. All of that just super nice. I gave that a high 7.
Tonight?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I'm in comments as far as, thank you, Chuck, for, I know that's a lot of work going through that many images and everything.
That was
And to have the results that quickly.
Just here.
To Jane for all, I know, once again, how much work it is to put those 115 images together, categorize them. I've done that before myself and that, but not for 115 images. That's a lot of work. Thanks, Bruce, for everything tonight and so forth. And for everybody for submitting the images in that, a lot of really good images. And special thank you for Doug to work through that. What we were really fearful of. We had one time before, I think we had 102 images, and we got out of here just before the cops showed up. And
Yeah.
which would be in about maybe another 30 minutes or so.
Right.
So to finish that at 8:45, but also with not just moving through quickly, but also very, very solid commentary and feedback and so forth.
Right.
The fact that you took the time over the last couple of days to go through the images, critique them, as you mentioned, some of them went back and forth and all that. It really brought forward a lot of really very good commentary and so forth throughout. So really appreciate it.